Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show with SportsbookReview.com. I'm your host, Lee Martin, here to talk some UFC. Like always, joining me, we have SBR's UFC expert, David Manyun, and MMA Mania's lead host, Matt Ryan. And this week, we're breaking down the entire main card for UFC 265, Derrick Lewis versus Ciryl Gane. And this is going to be such an amazing event. It is going to be this Saturday, August 7th at the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas. And again, I'm pumped because I will be there. So this is going to be the greatest card of all time. But anyway, before we get this show on the road, like always, just real quick, give this video a like, subscribe to our channel. That way you never miss a show with your favorite people. Now, let's get this show on the road. Like always, I want to begin with a recap of our previous event, and that was UFC Vegas 33, Hall versus Strickland. And honestly, I had a pretty good night, and I was really, really happy with Ciryl Gane's performance. She actually got performance of the night bonus. And then, of course, Sean Strickland, I had him by KO, and he didn't knock out Hall, and it looked like at some point he was going to, but he didn't. He won by decision. But either way, it was a decent night for me, but I want to hear how your guys' night went. And Matt, I will begin with you for a recap of your night for UFC Vegas 33.
Oh, it was a long night at the office.
Yeah.
I woke up Sunday morning with a hangover. And it's not because of the 6 whiskeys I had that evening. It's because there was just a lot of falderall going on that card. A lot of the fights on the main card were not fights we talked about, but yeah. I was wrong about Sean Strickland. It was his fight to lose, and he did not lose it. We got Ciryl Gane. That one was right. There was just this is a weird card. We talked about it. It was a stay away card. It was a stay away night. And my liver has demanded an apology note in acrylic, like acrylic paint. So I got to work on that after the show. Don't worry about it. I will be taking up a collection for the acrylic paint on my PayPal. For more information, follow me on Twitter at MRyanConsulting.
Okay. Well, how about you, Dave? How was your night on Saturday night?
It was going rough, and with a little thanks to Bellator, I was able to pull myself back. To be honest, I was breaking even after UFC. The underdogs, I think there was 7 of the 10 fights, and obviously we had the draw. But 7 underdogs. That was wild, especially following up after the week previous where it was another underdog card. But it's just I should have expected it, because a lot of them fights they were real sticky, and I didn't actually bet much. When split my parlays, won 1, lost 1. But then luckily Bellator came through and gave me a nice plus 300 win. The Russians in Bellator just absolutely dominated. It was a no-brainer to lay something in a parlay, and then I added Ciryl Gane into that as well, and she did incredible. Fight of the night. I think it was cute how she broke down when they gave her the award. I don't think fighters should really have to go through that. They should be paid respectively, but they're not, and especially for these up and coming fighters, getting 50 grand on the night must be real nice. Uriah Hall let me down, obviously. I actually gave Sean Strickland in my first look article.
Yeah.
I gave Strickland to win, and I think I gave him to win by decision. But the tossing and turning that I was doing with that fight, it was, as I mentioned last week, Uriah Hall's power, I thought it would have pulled through, but it didn't. And Sean Strickland goes on now, and it looks like he might be fighting Luke Rockhold, which is a very intriguing matchup, and I'll be looking forward to seeing that one.
Yeah. Well, congrats on your Bellator night. But I also I didn't mention this fight, but Jared Gooden, last minute replacement, round 1 knockout. I was screaming because I wasn't expecting that. He
opened at minus 130 as well, and he closed, I think it was plus 150 that he closed. So the public, they had complete doubt. The bookies were right and the public were wrong. So it just goes to show that the bookie, they're not that bad at predicting these fights.
Yep, exactly. Well, that's our recap. Now let's get on with our main card breakdown, because we do got to break down 5 fights, and I don't want to run out of time. So let's begin with the first fight. I'm just looking at this card, and it's so pretty. So we have bantamweight Song Yadong versus Casey Kenney. Via BetOnline, Song Yadong is minus 102, and Casey Kenney is minus 118. Matt, my dear, I'll begin with you for your breakdown and pick for this first fight.
Well, thank you, Lee. And taking a look at Song Yadong here, just a fun name to say. He's an actual murdering human being, but the name is fantastic. Top flight MMA name. He is coming off a unanimous decision loss to Kyler Phillips back at UFC 259. His first loss in 10 fights. Over that run, he's been 9-1-1. His biggest UFC win to date was a 2020 win over Marlon Vera. He's not been knocked out in 5 years, but he has had one no contest and one DQ loss, both of those by kicks to the groin. He cost himself points outside of that DQ. He landed an illegal knee on Cody Starman back in 2019. That forced a majority draw. This fight is a very big toss-up because you have Kenney coming off a split decision loss to Dom Cruz, also at UFC 259. 3-2 in his last 5, all but one of those fights going to the scorecards. Guillotine against Louis Smolka back in May of last year was the thing that kind of separated that in terms of going to the scorecards. But he does have wins over Ray Borg and Brandon Royval in his career. But he's had 6 catchweight fights in his career. Whether or not they're his fault or his opponent's fault, that is a weird trend for a fighter when you have to see them fight at 140. But he is a former 2-time interim LFA bantamweight champion. All but 7 of his 19 fights have gone to the scorecard. Knocked out 2, submitted 5, 9 by decision. All of his losses have come by way of decision. If you're looking to pick this fight, I'm hedging Song Yadong just a little bit. He's my pick as of now, but for me, the best odds are taking the over here. Both of these guys are going to the scorecards. We've seen it very consistently for both of these fighters. You know, Yadong hasn't been knocked out since 2016. That's a big sign for me that this guy's got a chin on him. He's not faced competition that can really kind of go head checking. So for me, that's going to be the big thing right there. I'm taking the over.
Okay. So I have this in my top UFC picks video, so if you guys want to hear what I have to say for it, check it out. But I was 50-50 for this, and I was leading Song, but I ended up backing up Kenney. So I'm very curious as to what Dave has to say, because Dave's breakdowns always make me nervous. So Dave, I want to hear your breakdown and pick for this first fight.
Yeah, you're both completely right. I mean, the odds say it all. They're not going anywhere, really. We've watched Kenney go. He opened at plus 105, and he's now minus 120. So, you know, there is a little bit of confidence from the public in Kenney, but Team Alpha Male's Song Yadong making his return after that exquisite battle with Kyler Phillips. And, you know, it was unfortunately his first UFC loss after riding a 5-fight win streak. He's been training since the age of 10 in various Chinese martial arts like Wushu and Sanda, but now at age 33, I've got no doubt this kid is here to stay. Whether he wins or loses this weekend, how he's reached this level at such a young age is real impressive to me. He loves to counter strike, but sometimes he can fall on that a bit too much. He's got that brute power, which, you know, it is quite rare in the bantamweight division. He's got a beautiful straight right, probably one of his favorite punches. But again, he just likes loading up, ready for them counter shots. But I guess it worked. It worked against Alejandro Perez. And then we've got Casey Kenney in a similar case, another prosperous bantamweight. He's only got a handful of losses himself. But in saying that, there has been a few close decisions, and, you know, this bout in particular is screaming split decision to me. And when we see these, it's always rough, wanting to pick a side. Casey will be in the southpaw stance. He will be comfortable landing his kicks, which have been one of his key weapons throughout his career, especially that left side body kick, or even the high kick, which we saw. Kyler Phillips he easily landed that on Song in their fight, and I'm not sure during that first round. I'm not sure how Song was still standing, but that's a true testament to how solid his chin is. And that just leads me straight into another key point. As Matt mentioned, I'm looking at, well, when I gave this pick on one of my written articles, minus 170 for the fight to go the distance is really something that I'm interested in rather than taking a side. I think Casey's the more refined fighter of the two. I'm going to give Song a speed and power advantage. But, you know, if it does get messy with some grappling, I do have to side with Casey in that area. especially in the clinch and with his takedowns. If Song is loading up them bombs like he likes to too much, is just going to open himself up for them reactive singles or doubles. Pressure should be the key here. If Casey gives Song too much room, he's going to be the aggressor, and that's exactly what you don't want against Song Yadong. Casey's straight punches and body kicks should be the key, I think. Keeping Song, off his front foot and just doing what he does best, point scoring to a decision with just a grinding, tiring style. And I think that's the best way to beat Song this weekend. And I'm going to lean Casey a little bit, but as I mentioned and as Matt mentioned, I think the fight to go the distance is a no-brainer this weekend.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up the odds again because fight to go the distance at Bet Online is -200.
Oh, it's gone up.
Yeah,
I gave it as a parlay pick, and it was 170 at the time. So yeah, that's getting steamed a little bit, and I'm not surprised.
Parlay if they still wanted to put -200, but
yeah,
straight up, if you guys wanted, Song is -102 and Kenney is -118. Let's move on to this next fight with women's strawweight. Tecia Torres versus Angela Hill. Via BetOnline, Angela Hill is +117 and Tecia Torres is -137. And now this is going to be a beautiful fight. Dave, I'm going to continue with you for your breakdown and pick for this next matchup.
Yeah, I'm a big Tecia fan. Before the days where people had to pay to get their birthday mentions, she did me a shout out, and I'll never forget that. That was great. So I am a big fan. But yeah, it's a rematch 6 years in the making. And for Tecia, I think she remains as one of the most underrated female fighters in the UFC. And I get it, the 4-fight losing streak in 2018-19, that was rough. But, outside of former champions and #1 contenders, she doesn't really lose. And she's only 31. She's only getting better. And her 2 previous fights, they really did display an impressive advancement in her striking offense, if you ask me. Angela Hill, again, another underrated female fighter where I've found myself fading her in positions where she's looked really good. That Claudia Gadelha fight, for example, I was on the side of Gadelha. She was robbed of that fight. I was on the other side. I luckily took a cashing ticket. But, that 13-9 record, it can be deceptive. Now, I'd usually be supporting the fact that we have, the perfect fight tape to study because these two have already fought. But both girls have evolved so much since that first fight. We can't really guarantee a similar outcome of events, aside from Tecia winning. I really think this is a perfect matchup for Tecia because her striking is so much better than the first two these times fought. And of course, Ange has evolved her takedown defense, but I'm not sure she'll be able to read them incoming shots disguised with Tecia's evolving striking skills. For me, speed kills, and them blitz 1-2s, they will assist Tecia in entering Ange's range. On the outside with a selection of clicks she likes to use, Ange has that Muay Thai background. I think people are going to be surprised when Tecia can match her on the feet. The size advantage, that's obvious. Especially in majority of Tecia's fights, she's only 5'1". But I am really leaning Tecia in this fight. Ange's hips, they're looking better when defending takedowns, but Tecia just has to land one of them power double-legged takedowns, which she puts everything into, and Ange is not good off her back. That is one place where she has really struggled. And Tecia has this newfound aggression. I'm not sure if that came from the level of competition she's faced, because let's be honest, Van Buren and Sam Hughes, they're not the most difficult matchups. But if this is a new trait from Tecia and it's going to stay, it's perfect against a fighter like Ange, who prefers to relax on the outside and let her Muay Thai do the talking. Now, Tecia's boxing and her ability to close the distance, and with her takedown offense, I think is going to win this fight. I think the cardio also favors Tecia, age favors Tecia. The only thing really going against her is her size. And if I'm being honest, I think it's a nightmare matchup for Ange. Hill should be real tentative with her kicks because Tecia will just rip her leg and take her down, and she will be able to hold her there, control her, and win these rounds. So for me, it's Tecia Torres. She's one of my favorite picks of the week. Why? Because we're getting a good price on it. And I did already get my bet in because I do have a funny feeling that we're going to see this price continue to rise. Tecia actually opened at plus 100. We're now looking at, let me have a look. Yeah, some books have got her at minus 150. So you just know this price just could be minus 200 by Saturday. So I got in that early, got Tecia on my betting slip, and yeah, I think she's going to win this unanimous decision.
Beautiful. Well, how about you, Matt? Do you have the same breakdown as Dave, or do you see this fight going a different way?
When you take a look at the level of competition Tecia Torres has faced in the UFC, take a look at that 4-fight losing streak that Dave mentioned before with Marina Rodriguez, Zhang Weili, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Jessica Andrade, has a win over a common opponent in Michelle Waterson and Rose Namajunas. Namajunas got her win back in a rematch against Torres. So that's the interesting thing about this. The outlier in all this, in rematches, she's 1-1. That could be an interesting part of all this. Could be the little galvanizer for Angela Hill, the little piece of hope. I wanna go Angela Hill here because I love Angela Hill. She's one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. But everything, when you take a look, she's 3-2 in her last 5. Torres is riding a 2-fight winning streak. Knocked out Sam Hughes, but got the decision against Brianna Van Buren, and Brianna Van Buren is not Angela Hill. I think this is another fight where we see this go all 3 rounds. Also, judging will probably play. I saw some people in the chat talking about some of those H-Town judges. I think judging will play a huge factor in this fight. I wouldn't be surprised if we get a split decision here. I'm going with the over, and I would look, if you're able to get value on Tecia, get value on Tecia. If you're able to put it into a parlay with the Yadong Kenney fight, I would go for that. But this one's a one that your heart is telling you Angela Hill, but all the data is giving you Tecia Torres as the winner. And I really do see this fight going all 3 rounds.
That's honestly why I'm not betting this fight, because I really want Angela Hill to win, but also I can see Tecia Torres winning. But you mentioned the over. The over 2.5 is minus 410 at BetOnline right now. So yeah, it's up there. But if you guys want to get in straight up, Angela Hill is plus 117 and Tecia Torres is minus 137. But let's move on to the next fight. We have welterweight Michael Chiesa versus Vicente Luque. Via BetOnline, Luque is minus 115 and Chiesa is minus 105. Matt, I'll continue with you for your breakdown and pick for this next fight.
This is a really fun fight, and I think this might be the fight of the night outside of the main event because it's heavyweight big boy fighting. But you got Michael Chiesa riding a 4-fight winning streak, a unanimous decision over Neil Magny, RDA, Diego Sanchez, and a submission over Carlos Condit. His last losses were back-to-back submissions by Anthony Pettis and Kevin Lee 3 and 4 years ago, respectively, but also wins over Jim Miller, Beneil Dariush, and Ally Aquinta. He in step-up fights, it's a little wonky because he's lost to Masvidal, he's lost to Joe Lozon, and those 2 losses to Lee and Pettis. But we've seen Chiesa turn a corner. And when it comes to submissions, the dude's submitted 11 people. He's only been knocked out once. When it goes to the decision, he's 7-0 on the scorecard. So that's a big sign for him. Luque got a win over Tyron Woodley, a.k.a. the next punching bag for a Paul brother. Get your money, son. Get your money. I ain't going to hate on Tyron Woodley because he can murder me. He also got a knockout of Randy Brown, did Luque, and a TKO of Nico Price. I don't think they faced the same level of competition. Recently, Luque has faced Leon Edwards. He's lost to Leon Edwards. He knocked out Bilal Muhammad. He's knocked out 11 human beings. So he is a dangerous man inside that cage. But it's a bigger cage. Chiesa can use the distance to his advantage. He can try to work on takedowns, and he can ground him out. This is not the baby cage, so the pressure isn't there as much as we've seen in some of the other events before the world started opening back up this year. So for me, it's Chiesa's fight to lose. I can see him pulling a submission, even though Luque has only been subbed twice in 28 fights, and he's been decisioned 5 times. He's 2-5 on the scorecard. So the deeper this fight goes, the better this fight is for Chiesa. I would pick Chiesa. I'm just not sure on how he's going to take the victory.
All right. Well, how about you, Dave? What is your pick for this next fight?
Oh, so a striker versus grappler matchup. Oh, damn it. It's giving me a lot of anxiety trying to pick this one. I gotta be honest. And I'll be honest as well, Michael Chiesa's annoying the hell out of me because I've faded him on multiple times and he just keeps winning. And he's coming off some great wins over Neil Magny and RDA. The RDA win is so impressive, but it's just all grappling. He's not diverse. He's got one path to victory, and that's grappling. But I can't discredit that because throughout history, we've seen it time and time again. It's rough. It's so hard. Now, Luque, on the other hand, I freaking love this guy. He's the only man to knock out Bilal Muhammad, and we know how difficult that is. Luque is that guy. He's that guy we know is going to fight for your money. And I know I said that last week about Barberena, but, we were unfortunate with the judges. And look what Barberena did in that last round. He come ever so close. And, in a parallel universe, Barberena was knocking him flat out. So it's tough, man. Luque came up, I remember the Ultimate Fighter, it was the American Top Team versus the Black Zillions, and he was able to submit Nathan Coy because Nathan Coy was attempting to fall back on that grappling, and it cost him. So for how good Chiesa is on the ground, we need to respect Luque, and he's no slouch locking up them submissions. The Darce choke and the Anaconda choke are his go-tos, and he's very good at them. And, I'd be surprised if this was his route to victory, but it's not impossible. Both Anthony Pettis and Kevin Lee were able to capitalize on, Chiesa's relentless attempts to ground the fight. And, he was submitted on 2 occasions. In fact, I think he might have been submitted 3 times. Now, in the stand-up, I don't think anybody doubts that Luque is going to own a huge advantage. And how many times is Chiesa going to get away with consecutive grappling attempts? Pulling guard, laying on the ground, welcoming people into his guard. It's tough. I think with an advancement in his striking offense, Chiesa's a serious threat. If this guy was a good kickboxer, damn, he'd be already challenging for that title, I have no doubt. But he just doesn't seem to care for it that much. With Luque, he's got great boxing, he's precise with his striking, mixes it up with his leg kicks. Chiesa's got them 1-2s, but that's about it. And all he's doing with them 1-2s is finding a way to enter the clinch. I'm not sure this tactic's gonna work against the power of Luque. He's gonna get desperate to tie up as always, or try and land a double leg, tie up the legs, outside leg trips. From the clinch. Everything in the grappling tool bag you can think of, Chiesa is going to try it. But it's fading him is wrong. And I'll sit here and I'll say it time and time again. Wrestling, grappling, it does win fights. It wins fights a lot of the time. And we've been seeing it quite recent where strikers have just not been pulling it out the bag. This pains me, and I've just been failing to take my own advice of recent, and I've been siding with the strikers, but you know what? I'm going to have to side with Michael Chiesa. Now, I did do my tape study on this last week, I think it was Tuesday, and this price was plus 140 on Chiesa. I would have probably put half a unit on that. I probably would have advised people to bet that, but now we're looking at the lines quite split, -110, -110. You can get Chiesa at plus 100 at some books, but when it comes to betting it, I think it is real risky because Luque is such a dog. He's such a good fighter, but when you look at that RDA fight and how Chiesa was able to just control his grappling, and he's just so damn annoying. He's like a leech. He's just going to get onto the opponent. He's going to be trying to jump on their back. He's just going to be doing everything he possibly can. He's not going to give up unless he gets knocked out. And he has been chinny in the past. But I don't know, if Luque doesn't get him out of there in that first 5 minutes, it could be a great way to get a live bet and get some value. If you watch Luque come out in that first round and try to kill the man, and it doesn't go down how he expects, I could see Chiesa running away with round 2 and 3, with Luque just being tired and not having that same punch. But yeah, I'm going to side with Chiesa. I don't think I'm going to be betting the fight, as I said, because of those odds. But again, as Matt said, this could very well be fight of the night.
Definitely. I'm completely drawn with this fight, so I'm definitely not betting this fight. But if you guys want to get in on it, via BetOnline, Luque is -115 and Chiesa's -105. There you have it. But let's move on to the co-main, and this another beautiful fight. We have bantamweight Jose Aldo versus Pedro Munhoz. Via BetOnline, Aldo is -110 and Munhoz is also -110. So Matt, I will begin with you now for your breakdown and pick for the co-main.
When you've got two people with ears as cauliflowered as we saw in that graphic, you know it is going to be a hootenanny. I am excited for this co-main event. I really wish we got to see Amanda Nunes fight on this card, but seeing Jose Aldo on a pay-per-view card makes my heart sing. You know who he is already, the inaugural two-time UFC featherweight champion, a one-time interim UFC featherweight champion, the man with the most successful title defenses in the division's history. The dude closed out the WEC, for God's sake. He is a legend. But he's 1-3 in his last 4 fights. His last win was a unanimous decision over Marlon Vera back in December, and he's lost to Peter Yan, Marlon Moraes, and Alexander Volkanovski. That lost to Yan by TKO, Moraes by split decision, and Volkanovski hit him with a unanimous decision. He's been 4-5 since UFC 194 and 1-3 in title fights. So when the lights are bright, Jose Aldo has not been able to turn it on since that loss to Conor McGregor. He's been knocked out 4 times, submitted once, and decision twice in his career, but he is 11-2 when it goes to the scorecards. And he also has a +13 knockout ratio. So that's pretty good. But we also have Pedro Munhoz, who's coming off a win against Jimmy Rivera back in February. But that also ended a 2-fight losing streak to Aljamain Sterling and Frankie Edgar. Both of those went the distance. But Edgar, who's a more comparable fighter to Jose Aldo in terms of experience inside the octagon, was a split decision. So it does give Munhoz, in my opinion, a little better of an opportunity here. He's 4-2 in his last 6, including a knockout of Cody Garbrandt at UFC 235. Here's a fun stat for you. Over 50% of his UFC fights, 8 of them, have gone to or past the 3rd round, but he's only 3-5 in that situation. So Munhoz is going to have to look for the stop early, or he's going to have to wear Aldo down. It's hard. This one's a toss-up for me. It's hard to come up with a winner. If your heart says Aldo, I wouldn't be against it. But Munhoz is a sneaky bet here. He's a sneaky win for me.
All right. Well, how about you, Dave? What is your breakdown and pick for this co-main?
Oh, Jose Aldo. Look, as Matt mentioned, the guy's a legend. I think my early betting days, over here in the UK, we were late to getting odds, and you were able to bet on WEC back in the day, and I'll just never forget, Jose Aldo was just one of them guys. He was cashing, and it was also that step where UFC, it was the evolution of the lighter weighted fighters. The Uriah Fabers and the Cub Swansons, took over the attention of the Tito Ortizes and the Chuck Liddaus. And this is where we have to try and separate being a fan and, trying to win money. This matchup is real tough. Again, when we look at the odds, it says it all. We've got Brazil versus Brazil. We've got a leg kick connoisseur versus a leg kick master. Amazonas versus Sao Paulo. I was, honestly, when I seen this matchup, I was hoping for a +130, +140, because I would have just hit whoever. Because, as I say, in these close fights, when you're betting long term, if you're going to get plus money on a real close fight, then that's what's going to help you profit down the road. But these bookmakers, they are not giving us an inch. And after the recent underdog cashes, I'm not surprised their confidence levels are a bit low. But this fight in particular, extremely difficult to predict. Aldo is just incredible multi-striker. And outside of losing, to world champions again, he's pretty flawless. in this department. He's 1-2 in the bantamweight division. That, you know, could be a concern. He's still gaining some size advantages against the likes of Moraes and Yan, but he's still coming up short. You know, with that said, both of those performances, for me, they were still outstanding. He gave Peter Yan probably the best fight of his career, and Moraes took a decision from nothing other than outworking him. Now, I really believe that Aldo is one of the best strikers in this division. But as I just mentioned, his flaw is getting outworked, which I can totally see Pedro Munhoz doing. Munhoz is a high-pressure fighter. The pace is going to be high. He's going to be cutting the cage from either side because he loves the left and right hooks. The best advice you could give to Aldo is, you know, don't trade with him. We saw how well that went for Cody Garbrandt. Now, not the prettiest footwork from Munhoz, but that doesn't matter so much. He's got a nice high guard and he's good at defending them incoming strikes. I don't think Munhoz has ever been stopped via strikes. And like I say, that's not down. It's not his footwork. He doesn't have the best footwork, but he's always got a high guard, which is always seems to be there after his strikes have landed. So we look at Aldo, and he's another high pressure fighter, which I think will be crucial in preventing Munhoz's output. The speed advantage is going to be with Aldo 9 times out of 10 in most of his matchups. Something that Munhoz has also struggled with is awesome technique. But he rarely puts himself in danger. That tight defense, which won't be broken unless you're setting up them strikes and landing combinations on him. Now, Aldo has some mean body shots. You know, see the Jeremy Stevens fight, ripping those shots to the abdomen. And, you know, obviously, as I mentioned at the start of the breakdown, some of the best leg kicks in the division. But then we look at Munhoz's leg kicks. They match Aldo. And I think most analysts in this sport, they're just really eager to see who's going to win the leg kick battle. I don't anticipate much grappling. Both men can grapple, although, you know, we look at Aldo, he does tend to give up positions against the cage, like he did against Marlon Vera. Marlon Vera was able to hold him and keep him against the cage. Aldo, he will take the backs of his opponents. Again, something unnoticed against Marlon Vera. Then we've got Munhoz. He likes to utilize a guillotine trap if you try to take him down too much. But as I said, I don't really see either man wanting to grapple in this fight. Munhoz, you know, struggling with speed could cost him in a judge's decision. Aldo's got good head movement. I can see Munhoz relying on those calf kicks to score points early, but he's going to need speed. He's really going to need speed, especially in the boxing realm. Aldo does slow down. Now, if this was a 5-round fight, which I don't believe it is, I think it's a 3-round co-main. I would be worried for Aldo in a 5-round fight because he does slow down in later rounds. He is getting up there in age. They are equally the same age, but it's just the longevity on Aldo's career. He's been through so many wars now. But yeah, he slows down. And I think it's just going to be pressure in this run. Munhoz is going to thrive on that pressure and output. But again, it's easier said than done. I just can't really come to a conclusion on this one. I think it's gonna go. I think it's gonna go the distance, and you know, knife to my throat. I'll probably pick Aldo. Munhoz. No, I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go with Aldo split decision. I think you're gonna need a lot of output to score these points, and I think Aldo just might have some more cracking punches than Munhoz. But all in all, I just want to see who's got the best leg kicks. Because I'm telling you now, there's nobody better in this entire company at delivering leg kicks than these two men. So I just want to see who's the better of the two, and then I'll be happy. But again, I think if you're going to bet this fight to go the distance, when you're touching a side, I'm going to lean Aldo. I'm just going to ever so slightly lean Aldo, but it's extremely tough to predict. I wouldn't recommend anybody, I wouldn't advise anybody to bet on it. But we know what people are like. We all, we've all got a bit of degen in us, and especially if you've been doing well earlier on the card, you might want a little sprinkle. And I'd probably have to go with Aldo.
Yeah, I'm looking at MMA props, and the fight to go the distance is at -170 right now. But
That's a nice price.
Yeah, exactly. But if, again, straight up, both Aldo and Munhoz are at -110. But let's move on to the main event, and I'm going to lose my voice for this main event. I'm going to be screaming my butt off. So, anyway, we have the interim heavyweight title bout with Derrick Lewis versus Ciryl Gane via Bet Online. Derrick Lewis is +290 and Gane is -390. And Lewis, he was at +300 at one point, and I was incredibly surprised with his odds because I was reading something that's like, yes, Gane is more technical, he's more agile, he's faster, but with that being said, I'm taking Lewis by knockout. So that's like how I feel about this fight. I was leaning Gane at first, but now I'm just like, I can't trust Lewis because he just needs to connect once. But I don't know if anyone can knock out Gane, I feel like it could be Lewis. But I just want to hear what you guys got to say. Matt, I'm going to begin with you for your breakdown and pick for this main event.
Hold on! I have the vapors for this fight. Let's just all agree that the fact that this fight is happening is stupid, but we're going to have fun with it because interim titles are being handed out like trinkets now. You can just get them. It's like cryptocurrency. Everybody has it at this point. But let's take a look at Ciryl Gane. We're not going to fade him. I'm not going to fade him. Am I going to pick him? No. Am I going to fade him? No. So 3 of his last 4 fights were decision wins against Alexander Volkov, Jairzinho Rozenstruik, and Tanner Bozier. The other one was a TKO of JDS. For those who don't know, he is undefeated. He is 9-0. But 4 of his pro fights have gone to the 3rd round or beyond. So almost just under half of his fights have gone to the 3rd round or deeper. He has not had a first-round stoppage since his UFC debut. And, of course, he's an undefeated Muay Thai fighter in France, fighting in regional promotions. He's knocked out 3, submitted 3, and gotten 3 by decision. So he is the more well-rounded technical fighter. But it's Derrick Lewis in Houston for a world title. Yeah, you're not playing normal rules here. This is something completely different. The energy in there will be ungodly. Lee, I'm going to wait until after the show. Like, I can't wait to hear from you after this show to let us know what the energy was like inside the Toyota Center. For me, it's hard. Like, the last 4 fights, 2 by KO and TKO, Curtis Blades and Alexei Oleinik. The other 2 by decision against Ilir Latifi and Blagoy Ivanov. That just shows the duality of Derrick Lewis. If Derrick Lewis is locked in and finds something, he's a shark in the water. But he's also a guy who waits for that shot. He's trying to find that shot. And we saw that in the Ngannou fight a couple of years ago, which was the worst UFC heavyweight fight in the Zuffa era by leaps and bounds. But this is his 2nd shot at a UFC heavyweight title. I was there in the Garden when he fought Daniel Cormier. Both of these guys not really primed to fight for a title so soon, especially with Cormier in his back and Lewis doing that walk-off on Volkov at UFC 229. Everything in my soul is telling me Derrick Lewis wins this fight. I don't think this is going the full 5 rounds. And I don't know if Ciryl Gane, under all of that pressure, because we've seen him in a lot of controlled situations in the UFC. A lot of his bigger fights have come in the Apex era. And a lot of his more recent fights, like, it's building up. This is the main event of a pay-per-view in your opponent's hometown for a world title. I don't know how Gane's going to respond to that. If I'm wrong, I'm happy to say on this show the next time I'm on that I was wrong. But it's hard to bet against Derrick Lewis in Houston. It's going to be a chopped and screwed night in H-Town, and I'm taking Derrick Lewis for the win.
I mean, his odds, when I saw the +300, I was like, that's nice for Derrick Lewis.
Those are some lovely odds. I feel like the odds makers may be hedging here. With that, like, they're like, Derrick Lewis could win. Gane's undefeated. They also could be trying to okey-doke people because Amanda Nunes isn't on this card. So a lot of people aren't going to be taking the straight, taking the Nunes money. So they might be doing a situation where it's Houston. There's a lot of things here. We might be trying to like put everybody on the Gane, the Gane train. Yeah. And Saturday is going to be an interesting day.
Oh, it really is. And I'll be completely surprised if this goes to the scorecards. If it does, then yeah, it's Gane's fight because he's incredibly technical. But I don't see it going to the scorecards, and it's really 50-50. But if I had, with these odds, that's why I'm like, it's hard for me to pass up on Derrick Lewis. He just needs to connect once. But Dave, you're making me nervous. I want to hear what you got to say. What is your breakdown and pick for this main event?
Well, before I break down the fight, let's just think about the odds for a minute. Now, there's no way on earth that Derrick Lewis is going to win a decision, okay? So you can forget that plus 280, plus 290, plus 300 on Derrick Lewis. You don't need to get that because you can get plus 450 on Lewis by KO or TKO, okay? Now, that's his only path to victory. I would put my entire bankroll on the fact that Derrick Lewis is not going to beat Ciryl Gane in a technical fight that's going to go all 5 rounds. Yeah, now, on the flip side, I think it's highly unlikely that Ciryl Gane is going to knock out Derrick Lewis. So you can forget paying up minus 400 at some books, minus 350, whatever it is. And you can take Ciryl Gane to win by decision, which is
plus 200.
Just check. There you go, plus 200. And I think that's the pick I gave on my first look article. Ciryl Gane to win by decision. I do think Gane has more chance to finish Lewis than Lewis does to win by decision. But I just don't see it happening. I think Gane's going to be very tentative. He's going to be very cautious. He's going to be very aware. When you look at Gane before he come to the UFC, he's never been a guy who's just fought bums. His first pro fight, he fought a guy who was 1-1. Okay, that was the only time he fought a guy who had a bit of a sketchy record. From there, he fought a 7-0 guy, an 8-1 guy. Then he came to the UFC, 9-0 Pessoa. Dante Mays 7-2, Tanner Boza 17-5, Junior Dos Santos 21-8, Rosenstrike 11-1, and then obviously the most recent Volkov 33-8. Don't let that 9-0 record deceive you. This guy transitioned, his Muay Thai skills straight into MMA. He's getting a fast track to the heavyweight title. The problem is that he's fighting 25-7 Derrick Lewis, who's got 20 knockouts out of them 25 wins. Damn, it's Texas. If for people wondering why are they screwing over Ngannou, I don't think the UFC wanted to screw over Ngannou. I think what happened is they offered him the fight. He couldn't take the fight for August. He wanted to do it in September, but because they'd already booked Houston, they weren't able to have Lewis fight in his hometown for a title, and that's what they really wanted. And that's the reason why we're seeing this interim title being introduced. Now, when you look at Ngannou and Lewis attempting to figure out who's the harder puncher, that's impossible. And in this fight, that's exactly what Lewis is going to be looking for. That's what Lewis does. He waits for an opening or a counter striker where he can land a hook or an uppercut. And as we know, it only takes one touch to drop the majority of his opponents. He's just not the most technical of strikers, and his technique is where he loses fights. Now, Gane is the exact opposite. He is literally a nightmare matchup for Lewis, if we're being honest. Take away the things like, okay, Lewis in his hometown, fighting for the title. He's never lost in Houston. I think Gane has just got all the advantages. He's got size advantage. He's got a beautiful jab. He's got great teeps. He's just got a well-versed range of strikes. And that jab in particular, that's what was dictating the fight against Jairzinho Rosenstruck, who I'd say is probably not as hard a hitter as Lewis, but he's definitely up there. And Rosenstruck's is way more technical than Derrick Lewis. And he is a guy that's got that one-punch ending power, but still, impressive outing by Gane. Jairzinho, he couldn't do much. At range, nobody is going to defeat this man. And that 9-0 record, I'll say it time and time again, is so deceptive. He went undefeated in Muay Thai, came straight into MMA, and nothing changed. He continued to go undefeated. It's probably the easiest fight on the card to break down, especially after what we've just been through with Aldo, Munhoz, Kenney, Yadong. It's Derrick Lewis KO or bust. As I say, take that 450 if you believe in Lewis. You could literally, obviously there's a chance this might mess up, but this is how I see it. You could take Gane by decision or Lewis by KO, and, you know, you could come with profit either side. And I'm trying to attempt to predict whether Lewis is going to land that kill shot or not. That's anybody's guess. Can Gane, you know, avoid getting touched for 25 minutes? Probably not. But I'm just struggling to envision Gane allowing those mistakes. Like the Volkov fight, for example, where Lewis is losing for 14 minutes of the fight. And then we see Volkov allow Lewis to barrage him with punches and finish him. Like, Gane's not going to make them mistakes. Gane is better everywhere. And his advantages against Lewis, they're unanimous. Speed, technique, takedown offense and defense, footwork, movement, cardio. And then obviously you got power that favors Lewis. That's it. Gane's lead hand, this is one thing I noticed, it does fall after he pops that jab, which, you know, it is a counter position where I could see Lewis shocking the world. But again, I can't bet on a puncher's chance. Gane, he moves fast and he gets out of any danger pretty quick. And then, of course, you've got his kicks. This is where I can see a potential fight-ending moment for Gane, is throwing those body kicks to Lewis. That could definitely put the big man down for sure. Now, his composure is so relaxed. He's got a lot of patience. He's got elite striking, offense and defense, a real high volume, plenty of feints. Now, these feints are going to be key for Gane in drawing out Lewis, and the switching of stance. When I break down Gane, it's like I'm talking about some bantamweight, but the man is a heavyweight. Yeah. And his switching of stance and then his switching of kicks and punches, I just don't think Lewis can contend with this. And he's going to be missing them bombs all night long, in my opinion. And I think Ciryl Gane's going to win by decision, and that's my breakdown.
All right. Well, now you have me really nervous. So I will definitely...
Ruiner. You're a
I will be screaming at Derrick Lewis.
No, but listen, we've seen it before. Yeah. Lewis has got that. He's got that. And there has been moments where I've seen Gane get clipped. He's rushed in, which I don't think this is the thing. Gane knows his opponent, and him and his team, they study these fights. He's going to know not to rush in. He's going to want to stay on the outside. See the Jairzinho Rosenstrike fight, for example. He was very careful in what he was doing because he knew that Jairzinho is got that power. And he's just not going to let anybody get that power on him. That's the thing. It's all well and good having it. You've got to really clock him with it. I just can't see it happening. I think Gane is the evolution of the heavyweight division, and it's going to be very tough for anybody to beat him, including Francis Ngannou. It's just going to be extremely tough.
Well, I guess we'll have to see if it makes it to that. But if you guys want in on it, via BetOnline, Gane is -390, Lewis is +290. And remember, check out the MMA props. All the value is there for you. Honestly, I probably won't take them straight up. I'm just going to mess around with the MMA props. That would be the smart. Definitely. But that's the main card. Now let's move on to our top prelim pick. And let me just pull up these prelims. And the one fight that stood out to me the most was Alonzo Menifield versus Ed Herman, just because I've always been a fan of Menifield. His odds, though, I might not place a bet on it. He's -245 Menifield. Herman is +210, but it's Herman's last fight. I can see Menifield winning this one for sure. But again, I'm not going to pay up for the -245. But Matt, do you have a top prelim fight that you're looking out for?
That was the fight for me. I like watching Alonzo Menifield. It's also the only pseudo big boy fight on the main prelims or the main card at all, so I have to play up to my character and go for that one. But taking a look at the prelims here, you've got some really good fights. You got Jessica Penne and Carolina Kowalkiewicz on the main prelims. You got Bobby Green going up against Rafael Fiziev. The prelims are pretty good. The early prelims, not a lot of names that I know. Mano
Cape's good.
Yeah, he's very good. Going up against Odie Osborne, which is also top flight UFC MMA name. Anderson Dos Santos, which just basically sounds like someone put this guy together in UFC 4 and was like, you know what? That's the most dangerous fighter combination I can think of. Anderson Dos Santos. And that's where I stand with the prelims for the Saturday night.
Great. Just to go back to the Menifield fight, I can definitely see him finishing it by knockout. So I was just looking at the props because I was curious. So Menifield by knockout is minus 115. So there's more value there rather than him straight up if you guys want it. But how about you, Dave? Do you have a top prelim pick that you're looking out for?
I do, but it's juiced. And everyone is going to already know how good Rafael Fiziev has been, Fiziev, however you want to pronounce it, depending on which part of the world you're from. And everything's just focused on his striking because he's such a good striker. He's so fast, extremely fast for that division. And people just forget about his background. He's got a background in so many different disciplines. He's in jiu-jitsu, boxing, combat sambo, wrestling. He's a master of sport in hand-to-hand combat and kickboxing. Just, a wealth of competitive experience. And I think this fight is all his, as you can see from them juiced odds. Yeah. But I don't believe the bookmaker picked them odds. I think that's a public movement. The bookie, I think they opened him around minus 140. If you were able to get that price, I applaud you. I'm gonna have to parlay this guy up because I struggle to see him losing this fight at all. He's gonna be facing Bobby Green. Bobby Green, like, he's a veteran of this game, but the striking output of Fiziev, it's just gonna outmatch Bobby Green, in my opinion. I wouldn't be surprised to see Bobby Green attempt to wrestle, but again, it's a hidden trait of Fiziev where he can grapple too, and I think he's going to be able to defend it enough, get away from them takedowns, and it's just going to remain on the feet where I don't give Bobby Green much chance. Bobby Green, I tell you what he likes to do. He likes to drop his hands and give it bigger, Nate Diaz style. And you do that against this man. I wouldn't be opposed to even taking a shot at that knockout prop because he is so fast and so powerful. That fight against Renato Moicano was just beautiful. The left hook to the body, right hook to the face, followed with another left hook, but this time up top. And it just dropped a decent prospect in this company. So my favorite pick is Rafael Fiziev on the prelims, but there's a lot of good prelims fights. Miles Johns has been impressive. He was overly hyped and he hasn't quite lived up to the hype. His last knockout, a lot of people were a bit funny about it. They said that he hooked his form in the glove to get the knockout, but at the end of the day, he's a good, well-rounded opponent. And Anderson Dos Santos is getting up there. Dos Santos is a bit of a veteran himself. He's 36 years old. He's been fighting for a very long time. I just don't think he's going to have the answers for Miles Johns. I think Dos Santos' path to victory would be the jiu-jitsu, and Johns' wrestling I think is just going to counteract that. So again, Miles Johns, he is a bit juiced. That's really another parlay piece for me. But yeah, I think you guys have covered the others. Manal Karp and Odie Osborne. That's tough. I would have liked Karp at a better price. I think that line should be much closer. Osborne, I think he's one of the biggest underdogs of the past year in his previous fight. So that's a bit rough. He has got that punching power, but I do see Karp winning that, former rising champion. And again, that was another guy. The hype was really behind him coming into the UFC, but 0-2 now, 0-2. Despite I feel like he got robbed in his last fight. He is 0-2, so it's rough. He does really need a win here. But all in all, this card is just stacked from top to bottom. Prelims to the main card. But as I say, as always, just, keep your units close, don't go too wild, and enjoy the fights.
Exactly. And there are honestly a lot of juiced fights on this card too. So again, check out the value in the MMA props. It's all there for you, especially at that time. There you have it. That's our top prelims. Now let's get into our lock on the card. And for this card, it is difficult getting a lock on this card. So if I had to choose a lock, I would say I would choose Alonzo Metafield because that's the one I'm most confident about, and I'm not 50-50 on that fight. But I want to hear what you guys have to potentially say for your lock on the card. So Matt, I'll begin with you for your potential lock on this card.
Oh, that's the same thing. It's either that or the Fiziev fight. Those are my locks on the card. I don't mean to echo my lovely co-hosts here, but for me, those are the biggest, the easiest fights to predict, to kind of lock in and say these are the fights that will yield you what you think is going to happen. Everything else is a grab bag nightmare that will get me very drunk on Saturday night on the Combat Culture YouTube channel. It's going to be a long, long day at the office.
Oh yeah, but it's going to be a fun day.
That's fun. It's going to be fun.
Oh yeah. So I'm just going to read Fiziev's odds, honestly. Straight up, he's minus 282. And then I know, Dave, you mentioned Fiziev by knockout, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just looking at his props. Fiziev by knockout is plus 200. So There's your value. But how about you, Dave? What is your potential lock on this card?
Oh, I'm sorry, Angela Hill fans, but I'm going to have to go with a Tiny Tornado. I think she's going to win every round. Unanimous decision. Again, I think you can get a plus 150 to win by decision, maybe even higher than that now. And that's my lock that's giving you, a decent price, a price where you don't even need to play the prop because you can get her at minus 140, 1.4 unit to win a unit. But then, out of the juice, it's got to be Fiziev. It's got to be Fiziev all day long. I think he beats Bobby Green everywhere this weekend. And so there's two locks for you, which I can't believe I'm doing again, but I am. So take it or leave it.
We appreciate it for sure. That's our entire main card breakdown. And I wanted to mention, Dave, everyone, if you're not following Dave on Twitter, follow him because he has his precise picks. He posts them every week. If you haven't followed him yet, at least just give him a try this weekend. No pressure, Dave. No pressure at all.
It's been rough. Hey, listen.
Don't count last weekend.
I've been doing these precise picks for a year, and I've had 5 nights where I've actually been wrong. Like, I've had more losses than wins, and it's 2 of them with the past 2 weeks. So it's quite annoying that I've come off 2 losing weeks, but 5 out of 1 year, it's not too bad, right?
It's not bad. But the thing is, it happens. And the good thing about it is that you still push forward and you do an amazing job. So that's why I want everyone to stay tuned to Dave's Twitter. Check out his precise picks. Check out all of his content. You can go to sbrpicks.com/UFC. And all the other SBR UFC experts are there as well. And also, if you're not following Matt on Twitter, definitely give him a follow at MRyan Consulting. And Matt, will you have an episode this week of your new show, Yelling?
No, you can watch old episodes of Yelling at worldwideleadersports.com. Instead, this Saturday night on the Combat Culture YouTube channel, Brendan Sokler, myself, and Shaquille Majori will be providing you all the action, calling the fights for UFC 265. Stephanie Sotilli will be there, Olive the Fat Baby, and as well Dan A. White, who is a puppet, and obviously not Dana White because I don't want to get sued. That will start at 9:45 p.m. Eastern on the Combat Culture YouTube channel. Be sure to like, subscribe, and join the party. It gets fun. If you like me on this show sober, wait till you see me jacked up on whiskey and calling fights. If you've not seen it yet, you are missing out. The only thing better than being with us is being there live. And, well, Lee's going to be able to do that. So if you don't want to drop down to $70, come join us this Saturday night on the Combat Culture YouTube channel.
Oh, it's going to be a wonderful weekend for everyone. But while you guys are at it on Twitter, just give SBR a follow at SBR Sports Picks. That way, they post all updates and all of our content there, so definitely give them a follow. And again, if you want to find more breakdowns and picks to help you make your best bets for this UFC event this weekend, just go to sbrpicks.com/UFC. Now, next week, we won't have any UFC fights, but we will be back the following week. So don't worry, we're not going anywhere. So until then, I wish you all the best of luck. Take care. I'll see you then.